So, this is the Steamworks Spirit Station. My name is Greg Spencer. I'm a pastor of the United Methodist Church, and it's a privilege to bring these shows to you on Tuesday nights every week. I am thrilled, really thrilled, to welcome back to the stage. I think we had you in the fall. I think you were here back in the fall. But he's a warm, wonderful guitar player and musician you're just going to love, Joe Mercurio. So let's welcome him. Let's listen. Let's enjoy the music.
Thank you, Greg. My name is Joe Mercurio. I'm from New Kensington. I'm going to give you a hodgepodge of songs. That's my. It's the way I go. It's the way I go. I like everything, so I give you everything. But the first two songs sort of share the same sort of theme, and that is somebody is wrongfully accused of a crime and goes on the lam and doesn't end well, either of them. The first one is called The Everglades, and it's a Kingston Trio song, goes way back to the 60s. Most of the Kingston Trio songs go back to the 60s. This is The Everglades. He was born and raised around Jacksonville, a nice young man, not the kind to kill, but a jealous fight and a flashing blade sent him on the run through the Everglades, running like a dog through the Everglades, running like a dog through the Everglades. Now the posse went in and they came back out. They said he'll die and there ain't no doubt. It's an eye for an eye, so the debt is paid. He won't last long in the Everglades. A man can't live in the Everglades. Oh, where a man can hide and never be found, have no fear of the baying hound. But he never keep moving and don't stand still. If the skeeters don't get you, then the gators will. If the gators don't get you, then the skeeters will. Skipping like a frog through the slimy bog, running through the trees. Now the years went by and his girl was wed. His family gave him up for dead. But now and then the natives would say they'd seen him running through the Everglades. Now he never heard the news on the radio. He was deep in the glades, so he'll never know. His running and a hiding didn't make much sense, 'cause the jury had declared it was self-defense. Running like a dog through the Everglades, skipping through the bog like a slimy frog. Where a man can hide and never be found, and have no fear of the baying hound. But he better keep moving and don't stand still. If the skeeters don't get you, then the gators will. If the gators don't get you, then the skeeters will. Thank you. Always liked that song. Yeah, this is something I dug out of the archives, and I decided to do the Long Black Veil next, and so the two of them sort of went together. So I dug out the Everglades. This is, like I said, this is sort of the same theme, same idea, but a little bit different. 10 years ago, on a cold dark night, there was somebody killed neath the town hall light. There were few at the scene, but they all did agree that the man who ran looked a lot like me. The judge said, son, what is your alibi? If you were somewhere else, then you won't have to die. Well, I spoke not a word, although it meant my life, for I'd been in the arms of my best friend's wife. She walks these hills in a long black veil. She visits my grave where the night winds wail. Nobody knows, no, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. Now the scaffold was high and eternity near. She stood in the crowd and shed not a tear. But sometimes at night, when the cold wind moans, she's in a long black veil, she cries o'er my bones. She walks these hills in a long black veil. She visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, no, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. Nobody knows, no, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. That's a sad song. This next song is it's a little different. This is the song of the WCTU. Who was the WCTU? Well, I'll tell you who the WCTU was. They were the Women's Christian Temperance Union. And way back at the turn of the last century, not this century, but the last century, they were a driving force to get rid of alcoholism in the United States, and rightly so. It had gotten out of hand, especially in the working classes. Just ask Henry Ford what happened to his assembly lines because of alcohol. And they were helped with some assistance from some men, but mostly these were women, the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Now, of course, this is a satire. This is not really their national or their anthem. And there's two versions. I'll give you the clean version. No, well, that's not it. There we go. We're coming, our brave little band. On the right side of freedom, we do take our stand. We don't use tobacco because we do think that the people who use it are likely to drink. Away, away with a rum by gum, rum by gum, rum by gum. Away, away with a rum by gum, the song of the Temperance Union. Now we never eat fruitcake because it has rum, and one little bite turns a man to a bum. Think of the shame that you'll have to face, hanging on to a lamppost with crumbs on your face. Oh, it's terrible. Away, away with rum by gum, rum by gum, rum by gum. Away, away with rum by gum, the song of the Temperance Union. Now we never eat peaches peaches because they ferment. And a peach will ferment with the slightest little dent. Can you imagine a sorrier sight than a man eating peaches until he gets tight? Away, away with a rum-by-gum, rum-by-gum, rum-by-gum. Away, away with a rum-by-gum, the song of the Temperance Union. Now we never eat cookies, they all contain yeast, and one little bite turns a man to a beast. Can you imagine a sadder disgrace than a man in the gutter with crumbs on his face? Away, away with a rum-by-gum, rum-by-gum, rum-by-gum. Away, away with a rum-by-gum, the song of the Temperance Union. Now we don't step on grapes, 'cause that's making wine. And one little stomp turns a man to a swine. Can you imagine a fouler defeat than a man getting snockered when licking his feet? Away, away with a rum-by-gum, hey rum-by-gum, I'm talking rum-by-gum. Away, away with a rum-by-gum, the song of the Temperance Union. Now we don't allow back rubs, we think they're a crime. We always condemn them in song and in rhyme. That alcohol back rub, it's worse than straight gin. When you think of the liquor absorbed through your skin. Away, away with a rum-by-gum, rum-by-gum, rum-by-gum. Away, away with rum-by-gum, the song of the Temperance Union. Now we never use mouthwash, 'cause we know very well that those who taste alcohol will go straight to hell. Oh, can you imagine a sorrier scene than a man down in hell gargling a Listerine? Away, away with a rum-by-gum, rum-by-gum, rum-by-gum. Away, away with a rum-by-gum, the song of the Temperance Union. Now we're coming, our brave little band. On the right side of temperance we do take our stand. Now we don't use tobacco because we do think that the people who use it are likely to drink. Away, away with rum-by-gum, rum-by-gum, rum-by-gum. Away, away with rum-by-gum, the song of the Temperance Union. That came out of the vault from way back. I believe that was Chad Mitchell Trio. Okay. This song is a Mary Travers song. Peter and Paul stood back, let her take the mic and the stage and do a single. And it's called Single Girl. I can't do Single Girl, so I had to do some gender bending and turned it into Single Boy. By the way, my wife hates this song. You'll see why. When I was a single boy, I had shoes of the very best kind. the time. And I wish I was a single boy again. When I was a single boy, I wore clothes of the very best kind. Now I am a married man, I go ragged all the time. And I wish I was a single boy again. When I was a single boy, I used to go to the store and buy. Now I am a married man, I just rock that cradle and cry. And I wish I was a single boy again. And I wish I was a single boy again. So when a pretty girl comes a flirting you, sits down upon your knee, remember the sparrow boy that flits from tree to tree. And you'll never wish you were a single boy like me. Single boy again. Thank you. I'm going to do one more, and then this goes back to the hippie era, and it comes from a group up called the Racket River Rounders. And the Racket River is way up in northern, the Adirondacks in northern New York. It flows into the St. Lawrence Seaway, so you're up there as far as you can go. The St. Lawrence Seaway is the line between Canada and USA. Yeah, I'm going to keep up twice. There's a stony lady living by the border. She's living in the country for a time. She's working as a barmaid in a city due north. Now and then she'll be a friend of mine. Stony lady, you're making me so high. Stony lady, don't you stop and wonder why I come to you in the fading hours of night and awaken in the morning to your warm and hazy light. Now her daddy was a captain in the army. Her mother was a lover of the Lord. Well, her brother's time was lost somewhere in South Korea. She's the one who marched against the war. Stony lady, you're making me so high. Stony lady, don't you stop and wonder why I come to you in the fading hours of night and awaken in the morning to your warm and hazy light. Now some say she's an easy kind of woman. Some say she's a foolish little girl. Some say she'd be okay if she'd only settle down. The stony lady doesn't waste a word. Stony lady, you're making me so high. Stony lady, don't you stop and wonder why I come to you in the fading hours of night, to awaken in the morning to your warm and hazy light. Now you may think that real fine women are planted. You may think that a rambling man must have a home. But the finest, kindest woman this man has ever met is the one who makes me feel that I can roam. Stony lady, you're making me so high. Stony lady, don't just stop and wonder why I come to you with the fading hours of night, and awaken in the morning to your warm and hazy light.
Oh, let's have another big hand for Joe Mercurio. And while we're at it, let's give a thanks to Ben. She's our sound engineer tonight. Thank you very much, sir. So, last week, when we got together, I read to you a story. We've been focusing on the stories of Jesus, the stories that he told, and they were teaching stories. They were very important, and they would connect really closely to life. And the one that we talked about was these 10 bridesmaids. Okay, there were 5 that were wise and 5 that were foolish. This came from the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 25. And what happened was they were all ready to have the celebration. If you've ever been to a big wedding with a lot of bridesmaids, then you know that there's a lot of groomsmen too. There's a whole lot of families involved. It's usually a big production and a big celebration. Well, in this particular case, what happened is the story is about 5 that were smart or wise and 5 that were foolish. Now, the 5 that were foolish probably did the same things that they did at other weddings too. Everybody kind of would do that. They were prepared to have a great celebration. The mistake they made was that they didn't prepare for any unexpected circumstances. And the story goes that the bride or the groom was delayed in arriving to the party. And so as the announcement comes late in the evening that he's arriving, they realize that they didn't have enough oil in their lamps. They didn't have enough to keep lighted. And I think probably there was something about having to have the lamps lighted when they came, or maybe through the evening or celebration. I'm not sure about the details of that. But what did happen is that they said, we need to borrow some of your oil from the 5 wise ones who brought extra flasks of oil just in case. And they said, well, there won't be enough for everybody. We got enough for ourselves to be able to keep going, but we don't have enough to share to keep you going. So you better go out and buy some. Now, I don't know how you do that at night, but they went out, and while they were gone, the bridegroom arrived, and the doors were shut. And so the 5 that were foolish were not included in the celebration. Now, I think we can get a couple of lessons from this. One of those is that wise ones think ahead. Wise ones prepare ahead. Wise ones think beyond the moment. And I think that's a very important lesson for us to consider in these days, because what I've noticed, both on the media and in regular conversations and discussing and observing people around, is that when there's a negative influence, whatever that negative influence might be, it might be a story that you hear, it might be something you see on Facebook, it could be something in the news, but whenever it happens, it triggers an emotional response for an awful lot of people, positive or negative. It depends on which side you're on, I suppose. But the reaction is almost instantaneous, and it takes them to a place that has been well built already. you might call it a path. They have a certain path that they go on when these stimuli happen, and so it's a very familiar path to go down, whether it's anger or upset or recrimination or debate or argument. It's very easy because we've got it so well established. And so what I see is an awful lot of instantaneous emotional response, which is more like the foolish bridesmaids, in my opinion. They're not thinking about how their words or their writing or their speaking or their actions are going to have a consequence and an impact on other people's lives. They're not thinking about the other folks. They're thinking about their particular opinion, their own particular position. I remember some saying, well, they get what they deserve. It was just a really casual, cold attitude about persons and whatever their circumstance would be. And I think that is the foolish end. I'm just thinking about how I feel right now, what I think right now, what's causing me to get upset or angry, and that's what I'm responding to. Now, I suggest to you that that's not the most effective way to live. As a pastor, it's been my focus to follow the teachings of John Wesley, and that's why I'm a United Methodist pastor. Methodism was founded by John Wesley. And one of the things that he said to all his preachers is, you have nothing to do but to save souls. Your mission is to make disciples. Now, I've always taken that to mean that it's not about me, it's not about the church as a whole, it's about helping each person to encounter God, to build a relationship with God, and to take confidence in themselves, to have peace in their own hearts, and a joy in their spirit. And they're all the time living, not just in worship and not just in Bible studies or things like that. It's about living a lifestyle that's like Christ. That's what a disciple is. A follower is not one who just happens to like what he said, but actually lives like Jesus and takes these lessons to heart. So we don't want to be so superficial or so immediate that we have to pay terrible consequences. You've done that in your life, haven't you? You ever said the wrong thing, realized it almost instantaneously, and realized you can't cram the words back down your throat? You ever been like that? You ever had those times where you were so concerned about something, there was something so emotionally wearying to you that was in the back of your mind for everything? And so what would happen is you'd react and respond to things out of that anxiety that you were carrying, rather than thinking it through, rather than thinking about what the other person is, what they're saying, what's going on, or how to deal with it. Now, I suggest that there's a better way to do things, and I think that we can choose what our orientation is going to be. We get to choose the impact that we have on other persons. I told you last week that persons in any given circumstance, it's not just pastors, it's anybody, there's always going to be someone who likes you, there's always going to be someone who doesn't like you, and there's going to be a whole lot of folks in between. And so you get to choose what your impact is going to be. Do I want to be a negatively oriented person who's complaining and critical and argumentative and all that kind of stuff? Or do I want to be a positive influence where I will swallow it, or I'll let it pass by? I've got a few models that I use to exemplify this. I don't want the negativity to be what I'm defined by. I'd rather have the positivity be what defines me. And so sometimes the best thing I can do is to keep my mouth shut. Sometimes the best thing I can do is to look around the issue or the response and see what it is that they're reacting to, and seeing if I might ask a question or cause some thinking that helps them to go beyond what the misery or the anger or the upset might be. And so we try to help them to think a little bit, or to move forward a little bit, to think ahead about what you want your life to be or what you want the world to be like, and to invest in that, rather than your reaction to something that's already happened, or the anger that you already carry, or the upset that you can't control. So there's another scripture in the same gospel, another story that Jesus uses to help teach us that. In the Gospel of Matthew, in chapter 13, and it's only one verse, verse 33. Now remember, last week again, we emphasized that what Jesus often does to introduce his stories is he says the kingdom of God is like, or the kingdom of heaven is like. And what he's talking about is circumstances on earth, our situations. In the midst of our experience, God is like this. This is what heaven is like. So God being present, God's active, let's be aware of it. So the story is this. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed in with 60 pounds of flour until it leavened the whole batch. Now that's from the modern English version of the text. There's older, flourier versions, but I thought that was a pretty cool way to put it. 60 pounds of meal, or 60 pounds of flour. And I immediately ask questions, and maybe you do too. How long does it take to mix and to have the yeast effective on 60 pounds? I've made pancakes before, and I mix the batter up, and that is what, a cup? I can't imagine 60 pounds. I can't imagine. How long did that take? How tired did they get by doing that? How many times had this person done it? If they're doing 60 pounds, my guess isn't the first time that this has happened. What is it? You're talking about an awful lot of effort, I would think, and a long time of doing it until the whole batch was done. And then I started thinking, well, is yeast good or bad? Is yeast a good thing or is it a bad thing? And for the sake of our argument tonight, I have to say that it's both. So what are we talking about? The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that this woman took and mixed with flour until it affected the entire batch of 60 pounds of flour. Now, to translate that for our circumstance, think of this. The positive that you create and that you continue to create in the course of your living, in the course of your conversations, your encounters, your friendships, your work, whatever your environment might be, if I choose to be positive over a long period of time and with a diligence of effort, the whole batch can be leavened. But the same thing is true if I tend to be a negative person. If I'm oriented in a negative way, over time, people will come to know, oh yeah, I know who that is. And they'll have a visible reaction to a person who's chosen to be the negative person, the critical person, the immediate emotional reacting kind of person, the one who doesn't think about the well-being of others, but only thinking about how they feel in that particular moment. In time, it will affect the whole batch. So maybe instead of thinking of a substance of flour, let's think about each flake of flour, each kernel of flour is a person. And you start thinking about, okay, if I am the yeast, am I doing that in a positive way or a negative way in order to influence the people around me? What I'm noticing is so many people are getting upset and angry and so ready to have their trigger pulled that it's not the healthiest way for our society to exist. It's not the best way for our communities to go forward. And these kind of debates, these kinds of emotional interchange really don't get us very far. We don't accomplish much by them. We get people hurt, we get people upset, we might feel like we had the best argument, but it doesn't take us to any positive result. And so what I'd like to suggest to you is that we have the alternative to be positive. And one of the best illustrations I got in trouble for doing this once before. The illustration I have for you comes from Monty Python. You know Monty Python? They did a couple of movies that I could still quote to this day. But the song that I love happens at the worst moment in the story that it's related to. And the song is, always look on the bright side of life. And everybody whistles. And that's the way the movie ends. It's a terrific song. Always look on the bright side of life. Because you never know who you might be influencing. You never know the positive impact that can have on someone else. And you can also determine that my own life is made better by cheerful rather than miserable. That I am hopeful rather than doubtful. That I am positive rather than negative. Now you have to choose to do that, especially if you've tended to be an emotional reactive person or a negative type person. It takes some practice. But 60 pounds, you got plenty of time and lots of lives to work with. The goal, I think, for God is for us to be happy. And one of the ways that happens is by our relating together and working together and supporting each other and encouraging each other. I'm not talking about the sad things that happen, the misery, the injury, the hospitalizations, the accidents that occur. In the midst of those circumstances, what people need is comfort. They need companionship. They need conversation that's encouraging. They don't want to all just look around and mope. They want to say, wait a minute, in the midst of this, we can pray. In the midst of this, we can care for each other. Let me go get you a cup of coffee. Let me get you a glass of water. Do you need someone to listen? I'm here for you. In those kinds of moments, we can actually be the most positive leaven you can imagine. And it will affect their whole life. And you can see it happen in their faces. You can see the tension in their shoulders relax. You can see how they're no longer focused with their eyes downcast. We can be the means that help people to say, what is a reasonable way of dealing with this? What is the most effective way of dealing with this? A lot of the problems that we hear people arguing about, a lot of the struggles that we see going on take a long time to resolve. Whether it's politics or whether it's crime or whether it's violence or war, anything else, it takes a long time to resolve. What we want to do is to help make it as positive a journey as we can in the midst, and so we try to live with hope. The leaven for us is living with a positive view of the future and trying to do everything we can to get there. With every step, with every conversation, with every good intention. Will anybody else respond to that? Some will, some won't. Some want to stay negative and there's nothing we can do about it. Okay, but I'm trying to be as positive and encouraging as I can be. And if you find yourself falling, you'll know who you can turn to for some encouragement. So we always look at the bright side. We want to see a positive result, and that's what we live toward. Whether it's in our family, or with our friends, or in our workplace, or in our social recreation time, and the frustrations that everybody has, and we choose how to deal with it a little bit differently. But what we can always do is find a way to be positive. And you never realize, because no one's going to come and thank you for it. You might recognize the relaxation in the time of a difficulty, but generally speaking, no one's going to come up and give you praise for having done that. But when they're living better, it is that better living that is our reward. And you need to understand that, because that's what God's is. When God blesses us, it's not for praise. It's not looking for us to say, oh, you're wonderful. That's not what it's about. He hopes that we have those relationships. But what he's really saying is, I care about you in your hardship. I care about you in your brokenness. I care about you in your uncertainty or your fear. And therefore, I'm going to bring a blessing to you in the midst of that. It is about you being better. It's about you feeling better. It's about you living better and being free. This is the intention of God for all of us, and I think there's a countless ways in which God is active in all of our lives to try to bring that about. When we start to recognize it, that's when we start a relationship, and it changes the way we see. It changes the way we live, and it multiplies and expands. And our hope is one day, maybe we'll be around long enough to see the whole batch ready for baking. That's what this story's about, I think. Anyway, that's what I work towards, and I think it's been pretty joyful most of the time. It's always hopeful. You can always see through the difficulty, and that helps an awful lot when times get hard, and when emotions get heavy, or when fear becomes great. To be able to see through that, to be able to walk your way through it, that's the best. We need to do that when the snow is 4 foot deep. We need to do that when the fog is there, when the snow starts to melt and there's fog everywhere, when it's dark and we want to see the light. So this is what I encourage you to do. And one of the ways that we do that, one of the reasons why the Spirit Station exists, is because we have these great musicians. They're wonderful music. There's stories that they tell, the heart that they share, the tunes that lift us up and that we remember, and the laughter that happens along the way. That is so precious in the midst of our lives. That's why we're here every Tuesday night, to try to bring that experience to you. And we get such great musicians like Joe Mercurio. I am so glad he's here, and I'm sure you are too. Let's hear the next set that he has for us, shall we?
By the way, in England, the #1 song requested at funerals happens to be, you guessed it, always look at the bright side of life. And most people have the mourners singing the song as they're being lowered into the ground. The English, right? I did this next song, I think the first time I've ever been here, but it's a great song and it deserves to be done again. When I first heard this song at an open mic, a friend of mine did it, and I blew my socks off because I said to myself, I did the same thing that the kid in this song did. I tried to fly like Superman. And, it didn't work out. Now, I was very confident because I did have a red bath towel tied around my neck. Authentic, right? Much more authentic than the flour sack cape that this kid is using. I don't know how he expected to fly. But anyway, I stepped out of the second floor window onto the back porch roof and took about 4 steps to the edge of the roof and up in the air and down to the ground. Fortunately, there was a grape arbor leaning against the roof there, and that caught me and spun me around, and I hit the ground. Saved my life, maybe, I don't know. Sprained wrist, a couple bruises. That was all. It was all I paid for being a dummy. And it took me a long while to live that down, though, too. There we go. That was strange, but expected. If something can go wrong, he was 8 years old with a flour sack cape tied all around his neck. He climbed out on the old garage roof and he figured, what the heck? He screwed his courage up so tight the whole thing came unwound. He got a running start and bless his heart, he headed for the ground. But he was one of those who always knew life was just a leap of faith. So spread your arms, hold your breath, and always trust your cape. Now he's all grown up with a flour sack cape tied all around his dreams, and he's full of piss and vinegar, and he's busting at the seams. He licked his finger and he checked the wind. It's gonna be do or die. He wasn't scared of nothing, boys. He was pretty sure he could fly. But he was one of those who always knew life was just a leap of faith. So spread your arms and hold your breath, and always trust your cape. Now he's old and gray with a flour sack cape tied all around his head, and he's still jumping off the old garage roof, and he will be till he's dead. All these years the people said, why, he's acting like a kid. He did not know he could not fly, and so he did. But he was one of those who always knew life was just a leap of faith. So close your eyes and spread your arms and hold your breath and always trust your cape. Thank you. This next song is actually it's a show tune. It's one of my mainstays. If you've ever heard me play, you heard me play this song probably. This is called "They Called the Wind Mariah," and it comes from a show tune called "Paint Your Wagon." You know what? I've never seen the movie. I do the song all the time, but I've never seen this movie. Way out west they got a name for rain and wind and fire. The rain is Tess and the fire's Joe, and they call the wind Mariah. Mariah blows the stars around, sets the clouds a-flying. Mariah makes the mountain sound like folks up there was a-dying. Mariah, Mariah, they call the wind Mariah. Now before I knew Mariah's name or heard her wail and whining, I had a gal and she had me, and the sun was always shining. Then one day I left that gal, I left her far behind me, and now I'm lost, I'm so darn lost, not even God can find me. Mariah, Mariah, they call the wind Mariah. Now out here they got a name for rain, wind and fire only. And when you're lost and all alone, there ain't no word for lonely. Well, I'm a lost and a lonely man without a star to guide me. Mariah, blow my love to me, I need her here beside me. Mariah, Mariah, they call the wind Mariah. Mariah, Mariah, they call the wind Mariah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just got through reading a book about a spy in southern France during World War II who was responsible for resistance against the Nazis. And she used women mostly, a lot of women. Some of them were prostitutes. And the prostitute would, of course, hook up with a German soldier and would get all kinds of perks, of course, good food, nice place to stay, etc., and was looked down upon by the population because she was a collaborator. What they didn't know was that prostitute, was garnering information from those officers and sending it back by wireless telegraph to London. And when the war was over, one incident, one of the prostitutes would take itching powder and dump it into her boyfriend, so to speak, suitcase. And I thought he had venereal disease of some type. They had to send him back to Germany for treatment, and it's one more off the line. I don't know if this song took place during World War II or not, but it kind of reminds me of that. This is called Mary Danced with Soldiers. A lot of people have done this song. I know Emmylou Harris has done it once. She'd slip away each day with the dimming light, and with the sweetest smile she'd kiss the child goodnight. At the mill she'd work her fingers till they were raw, for the sake of her son and the daddy he never saw. Mary danced with soldiers, she stepped the light quadrille, shawl across her shoulders to keep away the chill, to keep away the chill. It was a rebel boy who brought her joy, they say. Though the years passed, the memories stood fast each day. Before a bullet crushed the life out of their romance, he gave her a shawl and a parasol from France. Mary danced with soldiers, she stepped the light quadrille, shawl across her shoulders to keep away the chill, to keep away the chill. Well, they came around to the tavern in town that night, and with silent cries, Mary never tried to fight. Oh, they cut her hair and they left her body torn. Her spirit slipped away before the dawn. Mary danced with soldiers, she stepped the light quadrille, shawl across her shoulders to keep away the chill, to keep away the chill. Mary danced with soldiers, she stepped the light quadrille, shawl across her shoulders to keep away the chill, to keep away the chill. Thank you. It's another song I do a lot. And they may have done this here. Don't know. I don't keep track. I can't keep track. This is an old song, goes probably back to the 20s, I would guess. And when it was written, it was written in Tin Pan Alley. It was supposed to be a pop song. However, country and western music was just getting started, and they grabbed a hold of this song and they wouldn't let go. And just about over the years, just about every country and western star has done this, down to Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley. Elvis, however, cheated. Elvis recited the chorus. He didn't sing it. Well, I'm going to do him one better, and I'm going to sing it. downhearted, for though we have parted, I love you and I always will. And while I'm so lonely, I'm writing you only to see if you care for me still. Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? Does your memory stray to a brighter summer's day when I kissed you and I called you sweetheart? Do the chairs in your parlor seem empty and bare? Do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there? Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? Now I hold with affection a fond recollection, a romance of days now gone by. And often I wonder if I made a blunder by letting you bid me goodbye. Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? Does your memory stray to a bright summer's day when I kissed you and I called you sweetheart? Do the chairs in your parlor seem empty and bare? Do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there? Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? I'm going to close up with this next song. I think I've been up here too long already. This is an iconic song for Hank Williams Sr. When you think of Hank, you think of Your Cheating Heart and Hey Good Looking. But he's had a ton of songs, but those two are, for me, the ones that stand out. I'm going to do Your Cheating Heart. Your cheating heart will make you weep. You'll cry and cry and try to sleep, but sleep won't come the whole night through. Your cheating heart will tell on you when tears come down like falling rain. You'll toss around and you'll call my name. You'll walk the floor the way I do. Your cheating heart will tell on you. Your cheating heart will pine someday and crave the love that you threw away. The time will come when you'll be blue. Your cheating heart will tell on you. When tears come down like falling rain, you'll toss around and you call my name. You'll walk the floor the way I do. Your cheating heart will tell on you. Thank you very much.
Let's have another hand for Joe Mercurio.
Thank you very much. It's always nice to be here.
It is so cool to have these artists here and to know the joy they feel as they sing the songs and as they play the music. You know what it's like to feel that magic, don't you? It's an awesome, awesome thing, and it's such a privilege to have different musicians every week. Thank you so much, Joe. It was just magnificent tonight. Thank you very, very much. We'll look forward to seeing you next week right here at the Steamworks Spirit Station. Take care, everybody.